Hello, something a little different today. I thought instead of using the art supplies that I got for Christmas like I said I would, being someone who sticks to everything I say, I thought I had this Starbucks cup, and if any of you go to Starbucks, I don't know whether it's different out of the UK, but they do these reusable cups that you can buy for £1, and then I think you get something like 25 pence off a drink when you use this cup, so they don't have to keep using their paper ones. It's a pretty good idea. I think it's a good idea anyway, and as soon as I saw that they were doing it, I did buy one. I think this was over a year ago actually, and I used it a couple of times, then it kind of got into my cupboard and I forgot about it, and every time I went to Starbucks after that I completely forgot to take it, and then I just never used it. So I've been following a couple of people on Instagram that actually decorate the paper cups. I've been following them for about 2 years, and there's various ones. I'll do a little list of them that you can go and look up on Instagram. But then Starbucks did their little Christmas ones, where they did like a bit of a showcase of some people who do art on their cups, and then they've created those cups for Christmas, didn't they? And so instead of doing it on paper, I thought, why not do it on this plastic reusable cup? And so and another thing is I had a pack of 15, I think it was, Sharpies that I got, again, like about 3 years ago, and I just never found a use for them. I loved them because there was so many colours, and I just never found a use for them. So in the end, this is what I did with them, is I just created a mandala on my cup, and of course Sharpies are permanent, and the plastic wasn't really going to hold much else securely where it's not going to rub off too easily. So that's what I did, and as you can see in the background of this video, you can see how I've lined up all the Sharpies in colour order, because I don't know what it is about rainbows, and I know a lot of people love rainbows, but they just seem to be very just calming to me. So I just wanted to do kind of a rainbow pattern within the mandala on the cup, so that's what I did. So I laid out the colours. As you can see, it's a pack of 15, and it really does have a nice range. It's got pastel, it's got deep tones, it's got like mid-tones in it, so it worked out for everything. I was at home when I was doing this, so that's why the camera angle is a bit different. At the start it was a bit blurred, but it seemed to work out towards the end. As you can see, there's a ton of crafting stuff behind in the background, which is just me and Mum doing crafting when I go home. Anyway, the start of it was me colouring the woman on the front, the iconic trademark of Starbucks, and so I just gave her a little bit of a dress, kind of shirt dress sort of thing, coloured in her crown, did her hair brown, and then I started off with green instead of, usually I go from, when I do a rainbow, usually I go from yellow, through orange, red, pink, purple, blues, then to greens, but I started off with greens because obviously the background of that logo is dark green, so I thought it would look better if I started from green, working away from that, merging into the other colours, and then round the back finishing, the actual mandala circle with green, and then just finishing the pattern off with the rest of the colours. So that's what I ended up doing. It was the experience of doing this, it was very difficult because obviously I'm not working on a flat surface, so getting perfect circles was very difficult. So a lot of the circles do have little wiggly lines, and they're not always perfect, they're not always perfectly curved, but I just think that adds to the unique outcome really, and I did actually really enjoy doing this, and I wouldn't mind doing it again, and I think the colours look amazing. I think the only thing that I'm left to do at the moment is find some sort of varnish, because although the Sharpies are permanent, I can imagine that having hot water, rubbing my finger, like even now I just rubbed my finger on it a bit too much on one part, and it's smudging the colour a little bit, and I just don't want to use it until I found some sort of spray on varnish for plastic or something like that. So if anyone has any recommendations, please let me know. The plastic it's the recyclable, it's got the number 5 in it, so I don't know whether that, because sometimes things like glues and things can eat into it. I don't know if that's the same for varnish, but anyway, yeah, so I'll let you continue watching the video, and I'll pipe up at the end just to finish off talking and close up this video for today. Okay, thank you. One thing I will say is my thought process throughout planning to do this on this cup was, initially I wanted to do some sort of landscape on here or something very unique, but that would have required me to be using pens that were going to blend, like Copics or something. Now, the Copics probably would have worked on here, as they are permanent in the end, but I'm not sure how well they would have stayed on compared to Sharpies. Maybe that's one thing I can try, maybe buy another pound cup and maybe try that out and see how that turns out. But those types of thoughts were initially in my mind when I was doing this, and so when I finally came to a decision, I think it was more based on what the Sharpie pens would allow me to do, and that was do block colour. And instead of doing just rings and rings of lines, if you know what I mean, I just thought the pattern idea was probably the best. And if anyone follows me on Instagram, you will notice that I'm obsessed with doing patterns at the moment in my little Moleskine book, which I don't show on YouTube yet. So yeah, and although it looks like just tons of patterns in a ring, it's actually quite difficult to come up with different patterns all the time. And you'll see a lot of these patterns end up being the same because I just tend to lose my ideas, and they end up being just samey. So I think that's one thing I will work on in this new year, is coming up with better ideas for patterns and doing more unique things and not just sticking with the same old ideas. So yeah, that was just another thought. Also, in hindsight, if I do this again, I think I'd add a bit more yellow to it, because there was only one yellowy colour, the rest were all oranges or greens on either side of that. And so I think I would make that yellow a bit more prominent. Although it does kind of tie the cup in well, I do think I'd add a bit more yellow to it. My favourite colours to have used out of all of these was this very deep magenta I'm using now. It was just a really lovely colour. I'd like to use this for something else. I recently saw a video, just a generic one. I don't think it was referenced as to who it was on Instagram. I think it was on Art Select's Instagram account. I saw that someone got some plain white shoes, did a load of colouring with Sharpies, and then added alcohol, clear alcohol, rubbing alcohol, over the top of the Sharpies on the shoe, and it kind of blended them out and caused the shoe to have a kind of, what's that, it's a space effect, I can't remember, I'm terrible at remembering things when I'm talking on these videos, but yeah, it had like a space effect, so I wouldn't mind doing something like that with the Sharpies, just something new, just to keep my artwork a bit fresh, because sometimes it's good to do that so you don't get into ruts, which I often do. So especially when I don't have time to do a lot of things, it's good to do things like this where something new and different, and you're not doing the same old and you're not getting into a rut. see, the wider this circle got, the harder it was to create these perfect circular lines. I must have missed the part of the video where this happened, but you can see there I added that nice deep magenta colour to the rim of the cup because I was finding that if I tried to carry on that pattern over that rim, it just didn't seem to work out. It didn't look as neat. So what I did was I chose a colour that seemed to match most of the colours other than like the light blues that were hitting the rim, and just go along there just to give it a nice finished look. That was a good example there where it was so difficult to get your hand resting somewhere flat where you can do these shapes properly that I'd have to try different angles of me holding the cup and resting my hand on it just to be able to get a good shape from what I was drawing. Otherwise sometimes it wouldn't turn out how I'd want it to turn out, and that was quite frustrating during this whole process. here I was meeting up all the colours and it almost became a triangle every time I was doing a new colour, and although it looks fairly simple, it was kind of difficult to match the pattern up when you got to the tip of that triangle, and sometimes it wouldn't, if you look closer at it, sometimes the pattern wouldn't look quite right, but luckily there's a lot of writing covering up these parts, so it didn't really matter too much. Another thing is, now I've moved back into the greens, I had to change the direction. So when I first started, I went from dark greens to light greens. Here I had to go from light to dark to light again, so just to be able to match up those light blues with the greens again, but also ending on a light green to match up with the yellow. So that's how I had to do that a little bit, which luckily I was able to do quite well. And that's my signature, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's very colourful, and that's just how I like things, so yeah, I really enjoyed it, and hopefully I might do something else, a different type of patterning on the cups. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Metallic colours to be thicker, you know, i.e. because of the pigment, blah blah blah, I'm waffling again. Anyway, so they are thin, but they're amazing to work with, and again, they dry perfectly. If anyone saw the last day of Inktober, where I did the Nightmare Before Christmas